For the record, this is Steve Parrish, General Manager of the Regional Electrical District. Called to order the meeting of the Stormwater Management Committee meeting. Today is November 10th, 2020. We're going to start with a roll call just to verify the members present on the call. Committee members not present. We'll call the name of the alternate for a response. So please, when you hear your name, if you can respond and make sure you're off mute. Start with Chair Steve Parrish, I'm present. Vice Chair Ed McGuire. And his alternate Tom Davey.
Present.
Dennis Cedarberg. Dennis's alternate Jimmy Floyd. Mike Jansen. And Mike's alternate Mark Swanson. And Dale Daffer.
I'm present, Steve.
Thank you, Dale. I show us having 3 members present. We do have a quorum. Just a little housekeeping to remind the members as we go through the agenda. We request that any committee members wishing to make a comment, ask a question, or make a motion, that you say your name for the record. We'll open the floor for questions after presenting each item. Also, after a motion is made and a vote is called for, each member will verbally vote. If the vote is unanimous, that will be noted. If there are any nay votes, then a roll call will be completed to accurately identify the vote for the record. This meeting was properly posted and noticed in accordance with the Declaration of Emergency Directive 006 issued by Governor Sisolak on March 22nd, 2020, and subsequent directives. Suspending the requirement contained in NRS statute for a physical location to be provided for meetings of public bodies. Pursuant to Directive 006, a physical location has not been provided for this meeting. A live stream of the meeting is available at the web address on the notice of the public meeting. An email address, publiccomment@regionalflood.org, has been provided in the notice of public meeting to allow the public to participate in this meeting. This email address will be monitored during the meeting should any member of the public wish to participate in the final comment period. Any comments received prior to or during the meeting will be read into the record and will become part of the permanent record. With that, we'll move on to item 2, which is comments by the general public. As I just mentioned, comments were to be posted by the public on items on this agenda to publiccomment@regionalflood.org. Tammy, could you verify if we received any public comments?
Mr. Chairman, Tammy McMahon for the record, there are no public comments.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the call wishing to speak in the public comment period? Okay. Hearing no one, we'll move on to item 3, which is actually to approve the agenda. I did notice a typo in item 8, just for the record. This item indicates that the discussion is regarding FY 1920 quarterly reports. It should read FY 2021, since we're into the first quarter of the new fiscal. So with that change, the agenda is in order for approval. Any discussion? I'll entertain a motion from the committee.
Dale Daffer, Las Vegas, motion to approve.
Thank you, Dale. There's a motion on the floor for approval from Dale Daffer. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. And that motion carries unanimously. Item 4 is action to approve the minutes of the August 11, 2020 meeting. The minutes are in order for approval. Any discussion? Entertain a motion.
Tom Davey, City Henderson. I move to follow staff recommendation and approve the meeting minutes.
Thank you. There's a motion on the floor for approval from Tom Davey. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Item 5 is action to accept a presentation and receive an update on proposed water quality standards in Las Vegas Wash for Selenium. Mr. John Kennard, our environmental mitigation manager at the Regional Public School District, will be presenting this information. John, when you're ready, you're off mute. Go ahead and begin your presentation.
Good morning. No formal presentation slides for this morning, just an update on the status of the project. So we've been moving along and making great progress. I think at the last meeting, we noted that we were planning on meeting with NDEP to discuss our proposed approach. Those meetings have occurred, and NDEP has been supportive of our approach to the extent that they recommended that we move forward with presenting the information to EPA. So we have a meeting with PA 399 and headquarters scheduled for November 19th. At that meeting, we will present all of this data on fish and selenium and the Las Vegas Wash for their review and comment. And the hope is that we'll get some kind of support from EPA to move forward using existing data as a method for developing site-specific criteria for the Las Vegas Wash. That meeting again is scheduled for November 19th, and we'll update the committee at the next meeting on the results of that meeting. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, John. Any questions for John?
Hey, John, this is Dale, North Las Vegas. We still have the current, 3-year, waiver from the NDEP standards on selenium right now, correct?
That is correct. That grandfather is still in place until 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or discussion? I'll entertain a motion.
Dale Dapper, North Las Vegas, motion to approve the presentation.
Thank you, Dale. There's a motion on the floor to approve. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Item 6 is action to accept a presentation and receive an update on regional water quality monitoring. I believe we have Xiaoping on the call to provide us an update. Xiaoping, when you're ready, if you can please unmute and you can begin your presentation.
Can you see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, good. Hi, everyone. My name is Xiaoping Zhou. I'm with the Southern Nevada Water Authority, Regional Water Quality Division. And today I'd like to share some long-term dry weather water quality data result from runoff monitoring program. Data is pretty huge, and we started this program in 2000, and then almost more than 20 years data. So. The reason why we do this program is because there's the answer to the question. People wondering how much impact from different components to Las Vegas Wash. And one of the components to Las Vegas Wash is the urban runoff. So based on the data we have, during dry weather, we have a treated wastewater, probably 85%. And urban runoff generating 7 to 8% flow to wash. And shallow groundwater maybe contribute 7 to 8%. During wet weather, we have stormwater joint. So that's like a little chart right here, give you a little big picture, how much and what different components to Las Vegas Wash. Today, I'm just focused on the urban runoff, dry weather, water quality data. This program started 2000, actually back to 2001, I'm sorry. So we tried to monitor all the water quality from those major tributaries. Flamingo Wash, Las Vegas Creek, Duck Creek, Sloan Channel, Monson Channel, and Burn Street. So out of those six, three big ones, including Flamingo Wash, Las Vegas Creek, and Duck Creek. And sample frequency is on a quarterly base. We analyze pretty much everything, including field measurements, major cation ions, nutrients, metals, bacteria, organic contaminants, and some other parameters like selenium, perchlorate, and boron. This is a map to show the sample locations. And you can see from top as the Sloan Channel, and then down to Las Vegas Creek, Flamingo Wash, and then Monson Channel, MC1, and Duck Creek, DC1, and then go to Burn Street, DS1. So those are the six major tributaries to the wash. The next whole bunch of slides just show you the Bach plots of the different water quality parameters. The reason why we do that, I thought this is probably a good statistical way to show instead of just giving you average number. So you can see what is the maximum, what is the minimum, 25% high, 75% high, and the medium. So those are this slide shows you 4 different parameters of field measurements, including temperature, pH, dissolved oxygen, and specific conductance. So you can see the temperature pretty much go with the average temperature in the valley. pH for the most tributaries, is between 8 and 8.5, and also dissolved oxygen most time in the tributaries is saturated, oversaturated. So you can see the oxygen level probably dissolved oxygen level between 8 to 10 milligram per liter. And then specific conductance relatively high compared with the other water bodies. And the next slide, this shows you the major cation ions, including calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium. The most cations are dominated by calcium, magnesium. We do have some sodium, but potassium relatively is low. So you can see this. And the next slide shows you anions. And the same, we are dominated by sulfate, chloride, and some bicarbonate. But the carbonate varies very low in terms of concentration for all the waters from 6 tributaries. But if you pay attention to it, and each one may have a little different in terms of each specific concentration. That really depends on the different tributaries. Some tributaries have a higher concentration of chloride, some have a lower, and some have a higher concentration of the sulfate. And so those are a very interesting thing we can look at. And this slide shows you EDS, silicate, and also fluoride, bromide. And TDS, is you can see this is pretty high, between 2,000 to 5,000 milligram per liter. And especially if you see at the Duck Creek, we believe those are the high concentration, not only from urban runoff, also some shallow groundwater contribution. So that's why I bring that TDS level very high. And also you see some fluoride is relatively low. Bromide, those are the very low concentration. And the chloride, that's another thing, relatively high in the auditory water. Okay, now we have to focus on the nutrients. Nutrient we only sample, analyze for nitrogen, phosphorus. We have a very limited numbers. But in general, nutrient concentration in the tributary is relatively low compared with the main body of the wash. So especially for the total phosphorus and also phosphate, those are the relatively low. They are there, but not very high. We see some concentration for the nitrate plus nitrite is between 4 to 6 milligram per liter, and TKN relatively low. This is the total phosphorus. This is also phosphate. Next group, and probably 2 or 3 slides to talk about the metal concentration. We have some metals like aluminum, iron, those are relatively high in terms of trace metals. So they are in the milligram per liter level. And probably around less than, I think, the 0.5 milligram per liter most of the time. But we do see some spikes and during our monitoring program. And those spikes probably due to a lot of time due to sediments. Whenever you have a construction activity going on in the upstream of the tributaries, we might catch those particles. And since we report all those metals is a total metals, so sometimes, they got particles, you see some high concentration. And the bottom one is a magnesium and the zinc. Those are the relatively high in terms of trace metal. And then now move to the next group. You see some antimony and the arsenic. This is the barium. This is the chromium. I like to point out arsenic, chromium. Those are right here. It's higher in Burn Street and Duck Creek for the arsenic, and the chromium is higher for the Burn Street. This is interesting because the reason why Duck Creek and the Burn Street, those two got pretty much a lot of a contribution from shallow groundwater. And also those shallow groundwater relate to the industrial site in Henderson. So I think that will probably explain why we see some high concentration of arsenic and chromium compared with the other tributaries. And again, those are the lead, molybdenum, and nickel, vanadium. Those are the we do have same concentration. Some spikes, but relatively speaking, they are in the microgram per liter range. So they are relatively low. But we do see, we detect it, and now let's move to a couple. This one we see some high concentration in those things once in a while, but most of the time they are less than 10 microgram per liter. Bacteria. This is an interesting thing. The bacteria, sometimes is very unpredictable. Depends on the sample time and the season. We see some high number, very huge number, for like Ficocoliform, E. coli, and this is the different two species at the bottom. But most time we focus on the top two species like E. coli and Ficocoliform. Once in a while we see some huge spikes, but most of the time they are there, and I wouldn't say they are not low concentration. Most of the time, they are pretty good concentration. The reason why I think is directly related to the wildlife, human activities, since we are in the urbanized city, so it's not surprised to see some high concentration of bacteria. Sorry. Organic contaminants, we do see some once in a while, some organic, even they are very trace in terms of concentration, low concentration, but we do detect some organic contaminants. Some is common, almost every tributary we see it. So this is from Burn Street, we see those species. Next one is from Duck Creek. And but in terms of concentration, they are very relatively low. This is the next one is the flamingo. Flamingo wash probably got more species, more organic contaminants compared with the other. And the same thing for the Las Vegas Creek. I think that's probably related to human activities. Also really related to where you get that urban. Depends, people how to use that water, where they get that urban. And this is the monsoon channel, some parameters and also concentrations. I'm just quick through this, there's a huge data set. If anyone interested in specific one, let me know. And this is the Sloan channel. For some reason, Sloan channel got pretty diverse, abundant species, but the concentration is relatively low. Okay, total organic carbon. In terms of concentration, not too much, but we do have concentration. This is actually milligram per liter. Okay, salinity. I think, this is something we are very interested in this group. And the salinity concentration in the valley is coming from local geology and the soil. It's a kind of, non-point source contaminant. And we see some high concentration in the Monson Channel, Duck Creek. You can see Monson Channel right here, even a very small tributary. The big one is Duck Creek. And then the next one is Flamingo Wash and Las Vegas Creek. So the concentration in the tributary is all more than 5 microgram per liter. So that's the thing John and Regional Flood Control and their consulting firm is working with the EPA and DEA on the new standards. If we focus on the water standard, we pretty tough to meet the EPA standard. So now John's group try to work with use fish sample, fish data to comply with EPA requirement. This is the EPA standard for from 2016. So now, if you look at the number, that's the number we look at for a standard. We look at for tributaries, 3.1. I think in Nevada they changed it to 3.5, something based on the fish sample data. So anyway, even that we are not going to make it for the most tributaries. Perchlorate, this is a point source contamination. We know perchlorate coming from Henderson industrial site due to the historical reason. And but the most tributaries, they are relatively low in terms of perchlorate concentration. I think those are due to the water cycle. But in the Burn Street, we see some huge numbers, like 5,000 microgram per liter, which is equal to 5 milligram per liter. That's a very high concentration for perchlorate. Duck Creek might get some partially contribution from groundwater. That's why Duck Creek higher than the rest of tributaries. This is the perchlorate. And boron, that's something we also monitor because boron is a critical number for some vegetation cover. That's the reason why we're doing that, because in the wash there's another big program called the revegetation program. So they like to see this number from on. When we take the water quality sample, we also measure the flow in the 6 tributaries. The reason why we do that because we want to use those water quality data plus flow data so we can quantify mass loading rate from each tributaries for the different water quality parameters. And based on the data we have in the last almost 20 years flow measurement in 6 tributaries. So this is the chart to show you the tributary flow rate. The highest one, I think, is the Duck Creek, and the Duck Creek is Flamingo Wash, then go to Las Vegas Creek. So if you add all this together, we generate probably around 20 CFS flow. That equivalent maybe to almost 13 mg.
Almost 12. So we can do 13. Or
you just shorted, you just shuffled them the way you thought you shuffled.
Hey, Dale, yourself. Dale?
Okay, are we okay now? Sorry. So we probably generated around 13 mgd from 6 tributaries. Out of those 13 major tributaries, Duck Creek, Flamingo Wash, and Las Vegas Creek. Those add together probably 90%. And then another 3 generate like a 10%. That's including Sloan Channel, Monson Channel, Burn Street. So if you convert that flow rate to the annual water budget, that's probably equivalent more than 14,000 acre-feet water to the wash. That's equivalent to maybe around 7% of the total flow to the wash. If you look at this pie chart, you can see relative percentage. The bigger one is Flamingo Wash, Duck Creek, and also Las Vegas Creek. So they add together 90% of the flow. And the rest of 3 small ones, maybe 10%. With flow data and concentration data, you can calculate the mass loading rate. So for example, this pie chart to show you mass loading rate at different tributaries for TDS. We're talking about the tons per day. Okay, for example, in a Dark Creek, that's a big one, generate 105, 106 tons per day. So that's like a 53% of the TDS coming from to the wash. If you look at the six tributaries together. So the Duck Creek is pretty interesting. It's a big one in terms of flow, also in terms of concentration. So if you put those two together, so their mass loading is huge in terms of TDS. So the same thing for other parameters, you can do the same, use the flow data and the concentration data to figure out the mass loading rate for each tributary. And put in the pie chart, you can see relatively percentage for each one. For example, like this one is for the orthophosphate concentration mass loading, Duck Creek. That's the big one. It's 48%. And if you look at the nitrite together, again, this is the pounds per day. And then in the Duck Creek, we generate almost 300 pounds per day. That's equivalent to 52%. And the same thing for the total phosphate, and the other parameters. So I'm just go. Interesting, you can use those data to quantify and then to pretty much pinpoint which one, how much they generate, what the relative percentage. So this is a group for things. Also phosphate, this is, I think, this is for the metals. Same thing you can do. I'm not going to go with details. So this is another base metals, group base metals. You can see this. And for example, like a couple. And the flamingo wash generates 117 pounds per day, 47%. So the big one. If you go to this one, lead, flamingo wash again, is a big player. And so now let's move to arsenic. Arsenic is interesting, they are not proportional to the flow rate. And for example, Duck Creek, we have generated almost 80% arsenic from Duck Creek. And the other stuff is relatively small. But Burn Street, that's another thing. Burn Street is a very small flow, but they generate 6% of the arsenic. So I think the arsenic is coming from those Henderson area. And now, interesting thing to it, see slinging. Again, three big players. One is the Duck Creek, generate almost 50%. And then the next one is Flamingo Wash. The next one is Las Vegas Creek. So all the small ones, those three small ones, relatively generate less than around 10% of the slinging mass loading to the wash. So if we really want to work on slinging issue, maybe this is the place we should work on, like a Duck Creek, Flamingo Wash. Okay, as a summary, urban runoff water quality program really generated a very comprehensive water quality database. The database is managed by SNWA. If anyone interested, you can always either access from your end, or you can ask us to get that data for you. And with the flow data, with the constant water quality data, we are able to quantify mass loading rate with the flow at each tributaries. So based on the data we have, this is some impression I have, or summary I have. So water quality type in terms of major cationized and the value water in the urban runoff is magnesium, calcium, sodium, sulfate, and chloride water. So this is dominated by those things. And they do have a higher concentration, especially in the Duck Creek and the Burn Street, basically in the southwest of the valley. And the concentration for all tributaries between 2,000 and 5,000 milligrams per liter. So that's pretty high. And we do see a variety of the trace metals, and sometimes we see some spikes at the different locations. And in terms of nutrient concentration compared with mainstream wash, tributaries actually have lower nutrient concentration. And the selenium perchlorate is a unique water quality concern in the valley, and especially perchlorate. Also, like a point source, and NDEP and the different agencies spend a lot of time, money to remediate perchlorate in Henderson. So we see some very good result. Selenium is different. Selenium is like coming from local geology and the soil. So this is something I guess we have to address it and trace and concentration for the some organic contaminants. That's really depend on the different tributaries. Bacteria concentration very high in some time and also with a great variabilities. So you see sometimes several magnitude difference. So it's pretty tough to predict the pattern. Runoff water quality and flow, they are controlled by different things. This is just very in general. Of course, controlled by urbanization and the land use change, especially in Las Vegas Valley, and grow so fast. So we pretty much, change every year. You can see the map for the land use, and also depend on the sub-basin soil type and the local geology. And also some parameter like perchlorate is controlled by point source contamination. And also if you, all the tributaries have some kind of, some part of the shallow groundwater contribution, especially in the southwest part of the valley, like a Dark Creek, Burn Street. So shallow groundwater, of course, is also contributing. Sometimes it's very difficult to distinguish true urban runoff and shallow groundwater and the seepage. Also, it depends on the engineering program. I think the flood control district did a great job. So they also have an impact on the urban runoff water quality and the best management practice in the valley. And also water conservation by SNWA might play some role in the water quality in urban runoff. I think that's all I have. I really appreciate, we get the funding from Bureau Reclamation and also my group taking samples long day after, year after year, and SNWA lab for sample analysis. And also I got a lot of support from Regional Quality Division and also Las Vegas Wash Coordination Committee, Las Vegas Wash team support. So this program, and without them, not going to be successful. So I really appreciate their help. So with that, I take any questions. Thank you for your time.
Great. That was a great presentation. Thank you for that information. Do we have any questions from the members for Xiaoping?
Hey, just one, Steve. This is Dale again, North Las Vegas. Does selenium bind up with any of the dissolved solids, or is the selenium numbers included in the total dissolved solids?
Selenium, the number we are here report is a total selenium. It's including dissolved and particular phase altogether. But we do try to analyze the total and dissolved. But we find out the most selenium concentration, 99% is dissolved phase. So basically, the number you see is pretty much equivalent to dissolved selenium.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone else on the call, members or not, have any questions? Item? Comments?
I have one question. This is John Taylor.
Yes.
In this data, you look at the trends over 20 years, is there anything that jumps out as something we should be concerned about from a regional water quality standpoint?
Are you talking about for selenium only or for all in general?
For all in general.
I don't think so. I think, the concentration is pretty stable. And so now I think the only concern, if we can cut flow And then that means we can cut a mass loading, but it's difficult. Honestly, we try to see the flow data. We don't want to see a lot of urban runoff, right? But the more, that means you have a more mass loading to it, even with the same concentration. But I don't know how to do that. So I think the conservation program and the best management program educate people, to not generate a lot of runoff to the tributaries or flood channel during dry weather. That would be great. So, and also, I think the regional flood control have a good program to educate people to best management on the city street, and also for construction side. I think that's another particularly important, especially with at the different locations in the valley. When you do the construction, you might ended up a lot of things coming to the flood channel during dry weather. And other than that, I think that our data shows pretty stable. I mean, consistent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Before I call for a vote on this item, I see Mark Sorensen is on the call. I just want to confirm you're on and that you're going to vote on this item.
Correct. Sorry, representing Mike Jensen as alternate, obviously, and I had about 15 minutes of technical difficulty. I was able to hear most of it, but not vote. I apologize to all the members for that, but I am on live mic.
Okay. So we'll note for the record that you'll vote on item 7, and also is Jimmy Floyd on the call?
I am as well. Yep.
And you'll be voting on item 7 as well?
Yes, sir.
Great. Thank you. So with that, I'll entertain. Sorry, we were on item 6. I'll entertain a motion.
Tom Davies, City of Henderson, I move to accept the presentation for dry water, regional water quality monitoring.
Great. So we got a motion on the floor for approval from Tom Davey. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. That motion carries unanimously. Item 7 is to discuss an update on new permitting requirements for impacts to waters of the state as introduced by NDEP at the August 11, 2020 SQMC meeting. As noted in the item, we did hear from Jennifer Carr with NDEP at the August SQMC meeting. At that meeting, she informed us as a result of changes to the clean water rule, which no longer considers ephemeral washes as jurisdictional, that the state was looking into some new permitting requirements to protect waters of the state. As a result of that discussion, I drafted a letter, because that can be a pretty large impact to our capital planning program, depending on how that permitting process is resolved. So we drafted a letter and sent it to Jennifer Carr expressing concerns that we had regarding the new permitting process. I believe she is working on a formal response to that letter, but we did receive an email from Jennifer Carr in the discussion. I did forward that email to the members of SQMC as well as the original letter that we wrote. The email reiterates that NDEP is willing to work with the stakeholders down here in Clark County during the final drafting process of the permit and prior to the official public notice, so that we have a chance to voice some concerns, if any, regarding the permitting process. So that's a good thing, to keep the lines of communication open. We do have some concerns that were enumerated in the original letter, in particular the broad interpretation of the definition of waters of the state that's in NRS, and whether that can be applied to dry washes are probably the biggest issues that we have concerns about. Also, one bullet in the email dealt with kind of an interim condition where we have a project that maybe doesn't need a 404 permit now because of the new clean water rule, but may still need state approval. And until a permit process is in place, we might have to reach out to NDP to discuss how to get a permit for those projects that are kind of in between a new permit process and not. So we need to get a meeting set up with Jennifer Carr. I know she's been out of the office for a couple of weeks, and so I think she's back now, and so we can probably get something set up relatively quickly to discuss those kind of interim, I'll call them interim projects. But basically the purpose of this item was just to let you know, the members know that communication has begun between us and DEP, that if any of you all want to be involved in that, let us know and we'll be sure to loop you in. In the meantime, we'll be coordinating with all of you as well. And we've also engaged Larry Basil to help us do the permitting process and get his input on that as well. So that's all I really wanted to talk about, but I'll open it up to any questions. And I think Jennifer Carr is on the call, and a couple other people from the state. So if you have anything else you want to add, discuss, I'm happy to hear that now.
This is Jennifer. Thanks, Stephen, for that rundown. I think it appropriately represents where we're at in the process right now, which is one of sort of beginning of open communication. And I do have Elizabeth Kingsland, the Water Pollution Control Chief, and of course you all know Andrew Dixon, who's on the line as well. And yeah, we're happy to answer any questions that you all might have.
Okay, thank you. And any questions from the members or anyone else on the call? Okay, thank you. Hearing none, we'll move on to item 8. Thank you all for calling in, by the way, from the state. Item 8 is to discuss the FY 2021 quarterly reports and take action as deemed appropriate. We did receive the Q1 reports from all of the members. Looks like the information looks pretty good to date. Started on the fiscal year. There was a note that at least one entity had some slowing of inspections as a result of COVID and some quarantining requirements. However, I think that won't affect our ability to meet our requirements for the year as we work through the pandemic. We did, just FYI, we did hold a successful virtual contractor training, which will show up in the next quarterly report. And we'll also be running our stormwater PSA on the local stations here in Clark County in December. The annual report was completed by our consultant and was submitted on time to the state, and we believe we've met all of our permit requirements. With that, I'll open up the floor to any of the members. Do you have anything specific you want to discuss that's going on in your individual areas regarding quarterly reporting or any events or anything coming up that you'd like to mention? Anyone on the call want to say anything on this item? Okay, hearing no one, this is just a discussion item. There's no action unless needed, so we can move on to item 9, which is discuss monitoring activities and issues and take action as deemed appropriate. Dry weather monitoring. No, if we have anything we need to add after item 6 to dry weather monitoring, is there anything you want to add? Shopping?
I guess, I don't have anything. We just keep going the same program. So far, we not changing anything. Sample site, sample frequency, analysis, going to keep the same. And at least for the next year. And after that, we don't know yet. So we're going to continue this program and also all the data in our database. And if anyone in this group or other group needed to get it into the data, you either access the database or give me a call or email me.
Okay, great, thank you. And wet weather monitoring, Angie, been pretty dry.
Yeah, there was a little bit of rain this weekend, but not enough to collect the samples. So we still have 3 samples left to complete this year. We'll probably be getting some rain probably through the holiday season. So we are ready to go.
Let's hope for that. I think we're on day 202, something like that. No rain. Although it is raining in different parts of the valley, but just not in the county. Okay, any questions or comments on the monitoring activities from anyone on the call? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 10, which is discuss Nevada Division with environmental protection issues and take action as deemed appropriate. Is there any issues or anything that anyone, any NDEP members need to talk about?
This is Andrew Dixon, NDEP. No issues. We're still working on some permits, and we'll be reaching out to you guys, when we're ready. Realize it's taking a little bit of time, but we want to have good permits for you guys when we get them to you. So, look for that probably sometime next month. I think for the MS4 permit, we're doing some final run-throughs internally right now.
Great, thanks for that update. The question I was going to ask, so you answered my question before I asked. Yep. Any other comments or questions?
Nothing from me. Thanks for looping us in on the call today.
Okay, thanks, Andrew. Okay, we'll move on to item 11, which is discuss other stakeholder issues and take action as deemed appropriate. Is anyone from NDOT on the call?
Can you hear me, Steve?
Yes.
Hi, this is Jason Brock with NDOT Stormwater. Sorry I missed the last call, but we really don't have much to update the group other than we're dealing with COVID travel restrictions and stuff like that. I did want to thank you for helping us out with the I-15 and Tropicana project, as you were talking about dealing with 404s and 408, so that'll be interesting moving forward. That's all I got.
Okay, Jason. How about Nellis Air Force Base? Anything else on the call? Any other stakeholders that would like to discuss anything today? Right now, we'll move on to item 12, which is discuss items for the next SQMC agenda. Does anyone have any suggestions or comments regarding agenda items for the next meeting? We'll probably continue giving updates on the selenium study. So we might, I don't know if it'll be a standing item, but if there's something we need to report, we'll certainly add an item to let you know. Similarly with the permitting that's going on with the state. So we'll continue to have updates on those. Any other questions or comments on the agenda? Okay, we'll move on to item 13, which is comments by the general public. Again, comments from the general public are to be posted at public comment at regionalflood.org. Tammy, can you verify if had any comments submitted by email?
Mr. Chair, Tammy McMahon for the record, there are no comments.
Thank you. Is anyone on the call wishing to speak at the comment period? Hearing none, thank you all for calling in. We appreciate your time. Thanks everyone who presented, and adjourn this meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, John.